But if you thought that the migrant crisis was already costing us enough money, then I've got news for you. Would you believe that we are paying more than £2 million a year just to collect the empty dinghies in the Channel? The Home Office is spending £577,000 every 3 months to a company base in the west of Scotland to use 2 vessels just to recover the empty migrant boats. Yes, the costs of this are non-stop, aren't they? I'm joined now by the former Brexit Party MEP, Ben Habib. Ben, look, I suppose we can't just leave the boats in the sea, can we?
Well, we could point them at France, turn on the engines and just let them go back. What do you think?
Well, possibly, yes. I mean, but of course, we'd have to wait and see. Whether or not there's anyone on those boats at that moment in time is another question. But, look, this is just the ongoing exceptional cost of this stuff, isn't it, there, really?
It is. So the reason that they've employed this firm, which is called Maritime, oh my goodness, the name's gone, Maritime Something Services, Maritime Something Services, gone out of my head, is because it costs £200 a pop for Border Force to have these boats lifted out of the water by a crane and deposited on the side. Maritime Craft Services, that's the name of the company. So £200 a pop, which I estimate, if you assume 3 or 4 dinghies a day, won't cost more than £200,000 or £300,000 a year. But instead, we're paying £2 million to this company based on the western coast of Scotland to come down, pick these boats up, and bring them back to shore. And of course, they've got their own cranes, so they don't have to pay the £200. And I took the liberty of looking up this company, Patrick, and they have a turnover typically of around 20 million a year. So this is a massive contract for them. And I think this goes to the heart of another problem created by the illegal migrant crisis, which is that lots of people, legitimate businesses, are making money out of it. And of course, when legitimate businesses start making money out of a problem, you get vested interests being embedded. And we saw that with, lockdowns. We've seen it multiple times when governments react to a problem quickly. I think we're going to see it over the reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete problem, because we're now going to see a rush of contracts being issued, vast vested interest being created over dealing with that problem. The only good news, I suppose, that I've got, having looked into this company a little bit, is that it's not owned by a government minister or someone in the House of Lords. This is a genuine independent business. But, at the end of the day, it's going to cost the British taxpayers £2 million a year.
Ben, you make a really good point. You make a really good point about the amount of people making money out of the migrant crisis. And I don't think this gets spoken about enough, actually. You've got charities whose donations will be going through the roof as long as people are moving across the Channel, as long as people are waiting in Calais. I'm convinced that you've got lawyers, of course, a load of hotel companies, by the way. The reason why they ripped the Home Office's hand off at the first available opportunity is because they were struggling, certainly post-COVID, and now they've got guaranteed payments, plus promise of a refurbishment afterwards, whenever that may be, as well. You will have companies like Serco, you'll have catering companies, you will have loads of people, legitimate businesses. I think there are certain question marks about some of the charities, by the way, but legitimate businesses making a huge amount of money who don't want the migrant crisis to end.
Absolutely, and the reason the Bibby Stockholm barge is called Bibby Stockholm is because it's owned by a company called Bibby, who actually I went to school with the owner of Bibby. He's a perfectly nice individual. But, his company's bound to be making money out of it. I think Bibby Stockholm is forecast to cost £18 million a year. That's £100 a head per migrant per day. The costs are just vast. And once you get these embedded interests, it's difficult to shake them. And then they become almost proponents and purveyors of the ideology that supports their businesses.
Exactly.
And, you talked about charities, RNLI. Why is RNLI allowed effectively to aid and abet an illegal activity? They are not rescuing people who are in danger at sea. They're going out on perfectly calm days at sea, onboarding these people, sometimes going into French waters to do it, and then bringing them back to the UK. And the sort of bleeding heart liberal left who want open borders are pumping money into RNLI because of what they're doing. Actually, RNLI should be taken to court by the government for aiding and abetting a crime.
Look, obviously, RNLI will massively refute that. They will say that they are doing their best to help people in distress. But I do hear your point there, Ben.